While there have always been those who were willing to put their life on the line, daring to risk it all, only a select few are adequately reckless and brave enough to attempt the most awe-inspiring feats. A small group of men and women crazy enough to be called Daredevils. The forerunners of today's modern daredevil were those explorers and innovators willing to risk it all for fame, respect, or simply because it had never been done before. From Robert Falcon Scott and Roland Amundsen, who risked their lives to explore the Antarctic, to the Wright brothers, who finally broke the bonds of gravity to conquer the sky, men have worked hard to become the first, the highest, the farthest, and the fastest. From their efforts have come amazing machines, incredible events, and unsurpassed achievements. While not considered daredevils, these men did face death for a chance to be forever written into the history books. Polar explorers like Scott and Amundsen were driven by more than just a quest for scientific knowledge. They each braved unknown terrain and deadly weather to be known as the first one to make it to the South Pole. Similarly, the Wright brothers risked life and limb every time they climbed into the Wright Flyer. In fact, Wilbur Wright did die when the plane he was flying crashed only a few years after their record-setting flight. Wilbur and Orville Wright continued to set new records even after they proved that powered flight was possible. They soon were pushing their amazing new flying machine to new heights. Shown in this rare footage is the Wright brothers' plane breaking the altitude record, flying over balloons suspended at 300 feet. It is this courage in the face of danger that is at the heart of every true daredevil. And it wasn't just the Wright brothers who had these daredevil traits. Many other tinkerers and risk-takers experimented with novel approaches to flight, all wanting to become immortalized in aviation history.
This is a helicopter invented by this ingenious gentleman. The idea being to make the machine rise straight upward. The idea is okay, but it doesn't seem to work. Anyway, he's getting some good exercise out of it.
Accepted methods were not for them, and the results? Well, this one luckily didn't have far to fall. This is the flyaway rocket bike. Well, it's a bike anyway, and it looks like anything can happen. Look out, it's going off. We've seen hotfoots, but this is the first hot seat.
Although they never got too far off the ground and sometimes seemed comical, there was always an element of danger and a daringness to their deeds.
Undaunted, men with a burning ambition to fly, try and try, and then forget it.
You see, people had strange ideas, which almost worked. But in spite of real danger, aviation's pioneers kept on trying. Some experimented with gliders.
Some might think it a stretch to call these explorers, pioneers, and record setters daredevils, but they do share many common traits. The desire to be immortalized, to be unique, to achieve what seems to be impossible, and to do it all at the risk of injury or death. Some of the first true daredevils were pilots who toured the country in surplus military planes from World War I. Most of these men had been part of the Army Air Corps during the First World War and were now making a living entertaining and exciting the general public with aerial acrobatics and stunts. These pilots, or barnstormers as they were known, willingly flew their planes into buildings for the purpose of thrilling the crowd.
And as a roaring climax come the house record. Along with the house, they wrecked perfectly good airplanes and sometimes perfectly good men.
Airplanes were a natural vehicle for daredevils who flew them in truly terrifying ways. But it wasn't only airplanes the daredevils were drawn to. At the same time barnstormers were thrilling people with their aerial exploits, America's love affair with the automobile was just starting to take hold. Soon car races were all the rage, and a new sport was born. Of course, eventually the more daring drivers started doing stunts, and the more outrageous, the better.
They've tried everything but a wall of ice. So here goes for a cold crash and a hot finish. On they come, these fearless madcaps of the road. More thrills as they step on the gas to leap high over the bus and autos. These cars will make a heap of junk when they get through. There's a driver in every one, and sometimes it seems inconceivable that they survive the terrific strain of twisting, bumping, and turning. Now for the human boomerang. He takes the full impact of the crash head on. Exhibitions like these require skill, nerve, and a lot of luck, and the men know it.
Around the same time the automobile was becoming commonplace on the streets of America, the ultimate instrument of stunt making was coming into its own. The motorcycle, with its speed and size, created the perfect daredevil machine. Motorcycles gave one the feeling of flying, wind at your face, the excitement of speed, all without leaving the ground, at least not in the beginning.
Some motorcyclists tempt fate by doing stunts that defy the law of gravity, upside down without a care in the world. Now the real daredevils take over and literally burn up the turf with their hair-raising stunts and crashes. Here's one way to get through a pane of glass, a quick way. So the slow-motion camera shows just what happened.
It wasn't long before the motorcycle was being tested by riders, against each other, and ultimately against themselves and their limits.
The motorcycle hill climb always provides excitement and thrills for all. They dash up the steep slope with the throttle wide open and hope to go over the top in one piece. It's those last 10 yards that spell victory or defeat, and the majority fail to make it.
However, nothing personified daredevils more than the motorcycle jump. Pushing themselves higher, longer, over cars, over helicopters, across canyons, even building to building, nothing seemed impossible. Starting in the 1960s and 70s, a special group of daredevils emerged. Their names are mythic. Their stunts are legendary. Evel Knievel, Bobby Gill, and Super Joe Einhorn. And following in their footsteps is the king of the modern daredevil, Super Joe Reed. What makes them do what they do? Why take such risks? Why put life and limb on the line? As different as they are as men, they seem to have one thing in common. They imagine breaking free of the bonds of gravity, of arcing into the blue sky, of going where no one has before. They dream of stunts and of glory, testing themselves against themselves and their machines. The difference between these men and ordinary mortals is that they possess the nerve, the skill, the bravery, and the passion to create beauty from possible death. They can fly.